Star Trek III brought Mr. Spock back from the dead, but the version you watched almost never existed. Did you know the studio begged Leonard Nimoy to end this movie a completely different way? Did you know the man who created Star Trek quietly tried to sabotage his own film? Today we are uncovering 15 hidden truths about Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, from 1984. That includes a secret connection to Back to the Future you will never unsee. Number 1. The ending you saw was not the ending they wanted. Here is the promise of this whole video, right up front. The studio bosses did not want the movie to end on Vulcan. They did not want the long, quiet ceremony where Spock slowly comes back and struggles to remember his friends. They thought it was slow. They thought it would confuse people. So they pushed Leonard Nimoy to end the film a faster way. Their idea was simple. Get Kirk and Spock off the Genesis planet. Get them onto the Klingon ship. Wake Spock up quickly in the sickbay. Add one short happy scene. Then fly home and roll the credits. Nimoy said no. He fought hard for the version on Vulcan. He believed that seeing Spock on his own world, among his own people, trying to find himself again, was the whole emotional point. He argued until they gave in. Then he did not even show them the footage until his first full cut was ready. Think about how different the movie would feel. No sacred mountain, no priestess, no slow, powerful return, just a man waking up on a spaceship. The ending everyone remembers was almost traded away for something forgettable. Number 2. They blew up the Enterprise to shock you. Then the trailer gave it away. The Starship Enterprise is the heart of Star Trek. So destroying it was huge. Here is the thing. That was not the plan at first. Writer and producer Harve Bennett wrote the script backward, starting from the very end. He soon realized the story felt too safe. Everyone already knew Spock would come back. The title gave that away. So Bennett needed one giant shock along the way. His answer was to destroy the ship itself. He wanted it kept secret. He wanted fans to gasp in their seats. But the studio marketing team had other plans. They thought the ship blowing up was the most exciting footage they had. So they put it front and center in the trailers. They even called it the death of the Enterprise. Bennett was furious. He begged them to change the ads and protect the surprise. He lost that fight. So millions of fans walked into the theater already knowing the ship was doomed. The biggest gut punch in the film was spoiled by the very people selling it. Imagine building a huge secret, then watching your own studio hand it away for free. Number 3. One character came back with a brand new face and no explanation. If you watch Star Trek II right before this one, something feels off. The young Vulcan officer Saavik is back, but she does not look the same. In Star Trek II, Saavik was played by Kirstie Alley. It was her first big movie role. Fans loved her. In Star Trek III, the part went to a different actress named Robin Curtis. The movie never explains the change. It just happens. So why did Alley leave? It came down to money. Her role in this film was going to be bigger. When her team saw how big, they asked for a much higher fee. Reports at the time said the number was many times what she earned before. Nimoy later said her price was even higher than what DeForest Kelley made after 17 years of playing Dr. McCoy. The producers would not pay it. They even thought about cutting Saavik out of the story completely. In the end, they chose to recast her instead. Alley went off and became a huge television star on Cheers. She said for years that she truly loved the role. A pay fight, not a lack of love, quietly rewrote Star Trek history. Number 4. They invented a whole new language just for this movie. Listen closely to the Klingons in this film. They are not speaking made-up nonsense. They are speaking a real, working language. Before this, Klingons in Star Trek mostly spoke English, even to each other. Nimoy and Harve Bennett wanted something better. They wanted the Klingons to sound truly alien. So they hired a linguist named Mark Okrand to build a full language from the ground up. Okrand had a tiny bit to work with. Years earlier, the actor James Doohan, who played Scotty, had made up a few rough Klingon sounds for the first Star Trek movie. Okrand took those sounds and turned them into a real system. He gave it grammar, he gave it rules, he built a vocabulary. He even made the word order strange on purpose, so it would not feel like any language on Earth. That language did not stay in this film, it grew. Okrand later wrote an entire Klingon dictionary. Today there are people who speak Klingon fluently. There are Klingon weddings. There is even Shakespeare translated into Klingon. All of it started here, so a group of movie villains would sound real. One film accidentally created a language people still learn today. Number 5. The Klingon villain became one of the most beloved characters in film 1 year later. The main bad guy is a Klingon commander named Kruge. He is cruel, sharp, and scary. Under all that heavy makeup is the actor Christopher Lloyd. Here is the fun part. Just 1 year after playing this space villain, Christopher Lloyd put on a white wig and became Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future. Yes, the terrifying Klingon and the lovable, wild-haired inventor of the time machine are the same man. Once you know that, you cannot unsee it. There is another near miss hiding here too. Kruge was not the first choice. Leonard Nimoy actually wanted the actor Edward James Olmos for the role. The studio said no. Olmos went on to lead the rebooted Battlestar Galactica years later, so he found his own place in science fiction history. But it was Christopher Lloyd who got to shout in a brand new alien language and command every scene he was in. He even worked with the language creator almost every day to get the words right. So the next time you watch Dr. Brown yell about roads and time machines, remember, that same voice once commanded a Klingon warship and hunted the crew of the Enterprise. Number 6. To bring Spock back, the movie had to kill Kirk's own son. A miracle needs a price. The whole film is about saving Spock, but Harve Bennett felt that a happy ending with no loss would feel cheap. Something had to hurt. So the story takes one of its most painful turns. Kirk's son, David Marcus, is killed by the Klingons on the Genesis planet. He dies protecting Saavik and the young, reborn Spock. There is a story behind this choice too. In the early script, it was Saavik who was supposed to die, not David. But things changed. Saavik was being recast, and killing Kirk's own child carried far more weight. Nimoy believed the death of a son would land much harder with the audience. He was right. The moment Kirk hears the news is quiet and shattering. His whole world stops. Spock lives again. But it costs Kirk the one person he could never replace. This is the movie whispering a hard truth. Even miracles are never truly free. Number 7. The creator of Star Trek tried to sink this movie from the inside. This is one of the strangest stories in Star Trek history. Gene Roddenberry created the whole thing, but by this point, he had been pushed out of real control. He was only a consultant, and he hated the plan to destroy the Enterprise. He also disliked another idea on the table. The producers had thought about moving Kirk and the crew onto a shiny new ship called the Excelsior for good. Roddenberry believed fans would revolt. So according to the story, he leaked the secret plans to fan magazines himself. He wanted to stir up anger and force the studio to back down. Harve Bennett grew suspicious about the leaks. He set a clever trap. He gave slightly different versions of the pages to different people so he could trace who talked. The trail, he said, led back to Roddenberry. The fan anger did have an effect. The plan to keep the crew on the Excelsior was dropped. The Enterprise was still destroyed in this film, but by the next movie, a brand new Enterprise arrived to take its place. So the man who invented Star Trek fought his own team in the shadows, and in one way, he won. Number 8. Spock is hidden inside the credits under a fake name. The whole movie is called The Search for Spock. Everyone knew he would come back, but the filmmakers still tried to protect the surprise in a playful way. Look at the opening credits. Leonard Nimoy is listed as the director, but his name is missing from the list of actors. There is even a strange, long gap in the credits, right in the spot where his acting name would normally appear. It goes deeper than that. On the daily paperwork used to run the set, the character of Spock was not called Spock at all. He was listed under a made-up name. They spelled the word Vulcan backward and used that. And the actor playing this secret role was credited as a person named Frank Force. Frank Force was not real. It was a cover name for Nimoy. Nimoy even lent his voice to a small piece of the film under that same fake credit. It was all a wink. The team knew fans were smart. They knew the ending was obvious. So instead of pretending, they turned the secret into a little game hidden in plain sight. The most famous return in the film was signed by a man who did not officially exist. Number 9. Nimoy almost was not allowed to direct at all. Leonard Nimoy directing this film sounds obvious now. Who understands Spock better than the man who played him for years? But it almost did not happen. When Nimoy said he wanted to direct, a top studio boss named Michael Eisner had doubts. Eisner had heard a rumor. The rumor said that Nimoy hated Star Trek. It said Nimoy had even forced the writers to kill Spock in the last film just to escape the role. None of that was true. Nimoy had actually grown to love playing Spock again. He had to sit down and clear his name before they would trust him with the movie. Once he explained the truth, the job was his. There is a funny footnote to this. When Gene Roddenberry heard that Nimoy would direct, he made a sharp little joke. He said the producer had hired a director you cannot fire. It was true. If they pushed Nimoy out, they would lose Spock too. So the man who played the most logical character in the galaxy took full control of the camera, and the film became one of the most heartfelt in the whole series. Sometimes the person everyone doubts is exactly the right choice. Number 10. A voice you think belongs to McCoy actually belongs to Spock. Here is a hidden detail you can hear for yourself. Watch the scene where the crew steals the Enterprise and escapes the space dock. Kirk asks for a scan to check for ships chasing them. A voice answers back that nothing is following. It sounds like Dr. McCoy, sitting nearby. But it is not. That line was actually spoken by Leonard Nimoy. Now remember the whole idea of this movie. Spock's spirit, his katra, has been placed inside McCoy's mind. Through the film, McCoy sometimes acts strange. Sometimes he even sounds like Spock. There is a spooky earlier scene where McCoy sits in the shadows and speaks in Spock's calm voice. So this small moment is a clue. Is that really McCoy answering Kirk? Or is it Spock's spirit, speaking through him for just one line? The film never tells you. It leaves it open on purpose. Most people watch this scene many times and never notice. But once you know, you cannot miss it. It is a tiny piece of magic, hidden inside a busy action scene. Spock was quietly there the whole time, even before his body came back to life. Number 11. The villains were supposed to be Romulans, not Klingons. The Klingons feel perfect in this film. But they were not the first plan. In Harve Bennett's earliest outline, the bad guys were the Romulans. The story was a bit different too. The Romulans would come to the Genesis planet because it was rich with a rare and powerful mineral. They would start mining it. Then they would begin dying. One by one, hunted by a wild, reborn Spock, growing up fast on the surface. When Nimoy came on board, he wanted a change. He felt the Klingons were more exciting on screen. He thought they were bolder and more theatrical. He also knew fans already had a strong feeling about the Klingons from years of stories. So the villains were swapped. That one choice shaped everything that followed. It gave us Commander Kruge. It gave us the Klingon bird of prey, which the heroes end up stealing. It even led to that brand new Klingon language we talked about earlier. If the Romulans had stayed, this would be a very different movie, with a very different feel. One small change in an early draft quietly set the tone for the entire film. Number 12. A powerful ending scene was filmed over 3 nights, then cut. The final part of the movie takes place on Vulcan. The crew carries Spock's body up the steps of a sacred mountain. It is quiet and grand. But there was even more filmed for this moment than what you see. The team shot a bigger version of this scene. It took 3 whole nights to film. It used hundreds of extras. In this cut piece, as the crew carries Spock up the steps, a small Vulcan child steps away from her family. She walks up to Spock. She raises her hand in the famous Vulcan salute, and she softly says, "Live long and prosper, Spock." It is a beautiful idea. A child, the future of Vulcan, honoring the man being brought back to life. But in the end, the scene was removed from the film. You can still find traces of it in the comic book and the book version of the story. Those versions kept moments the movie left behind. So the ending you saw was already emotional. But there was an even more tender version that almost made the final cut. Sometimes the most touching moments end up on the cutting room floor, saved only in the pages fans dig up years later. Number 13. A starship in this movie honors a real astronaut who died. Early in the film we meet a science ship called the Grissom. It is studying the Genesis planet. Its name is not random. The ship is named after a real American astronaut, Gus Grissom. Gus Grissom was one of the first Americans in space. He was a true pioneer. But his story ended in tragedy. On January 27, 1967, he was taking part in a ground test for the Apollo 1 mission. A fire broke out inside the sealed capsule. Grissom and 2 fellow astronauts lost their lives that day. It was one of the darkest moments in the history of space travel. Star Trek has always looked up to real explorers. Naming a ship after Grissom was a quiet way to honor that. It ties the fantasy of Star Trek to the real people who risked everything to reach the stars. Sadly, in the film, the Grissom is destroyed by the Klingons. So the ship named for a fallen hero meets a hard end as well. It is a small detail most viewers miss, but it is a gentle nod to a real man who gave his life reaching for space. Number 14. The most praised moment of Shatner's career was a happy accident. We talked about the death of Kirk's son. That scene gave us what many people call the finest moment William Shatner ever put on film. And a big part of it was not fully planned. When Kirk hears that his son is dead, he steps backward in shock. He reaches for his captain's chair to steady himself. But he misses it. He slips and drops to the floor. That stumble makes the pain feel real and human. A strong man simply loses his footing under the weight of grief. Here is the twist. That fall was not perfectly scripted. Nimoy had told Shatner to just feel the moment and react. Shatner has told the story a few different ways over the years. In one version, he meant to miss the chair on purpose. In another, he says he truly meant to sit and simply missed by accident. Either way, the raw result stayed in the film. Shatner himself has called this Kirk's greatest moment on screen. And it works because it does not feel like acting. It feels like a real person breaking. Sometimes the most powerful scenes are the ones that are not planned down to the last inch. Number 15. Even the cast thought destroying the Enterprise went too far. We end where the biggest shock lives. Destroying the Enterprise did not just upset fans. It bothered the people who made the show as well. To many of them, the ship was not just a set, it was a character. It was as loved as Kirk or Spock or McCoy. DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, was uneasy about it. He felt the Enterprise was a bigger star than any of the actors. His worry was simple and sharp. If the studio was willing to write the ship out of the story, then no one on the crew was truly safe. Anybody could be next. And here is the part that stunned Harve Bennett. When the movie came out, many fans were more upset about losing the ship than about the death of Kirk's own son. Think about that. A machine made of models and lights had become so beloved that its loss hit harder than the death of a human character. That reaction proved something important. Star Trek was never just a show about people. The Enterprise itself had become family, and for one film, the fans and the cast had to grieve for a ship. Under all the trivia, Star Trek III is really about one simple idea. True friends will risk everything, even a ship, even a career, to bring you home. So here is my question. Would you steal a starship and throw away your whole future to save one friend? Tell me below, and hit subscribe, because every week we uncover the secrets Hollywood buried in the films you thought you knew.